पूरी टीम के लिए लगातार प्रेरणादायी रहा है। तो सर की यहाँ उपस्थिति विशेष रूप से महत्व रखती है। साथ में इस कार्यक्रम में हम सब लोगों को नेशनल टीम से जहां से ऊर्जा मिलती है वहां से गाइड करने के लिए मैडम उपस्थित हैं नीता केजरीवाल में, जो कि ज्वाइंट सेक्रेटरी है रूरल डेवलपमेंट में, बहुत ही प्रेरणादायी है। इस कार्यक्रम में विभिन्न राज्यों से उपस्थिति दर्ज करा संदीप यहाँ पर उपस्थित हुए हैं। मैं आप लोगों का भी बहुत बहुत स्वागत कर रहा हूँ। साथ में कुछ राज्यों के एएस संदीप और सीओओज भी यहाँ पर उपस्थित हैं। आप लोगों का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है इस कार्यक्रम में। नेशनल मिशन की टीम ने पिछले 10 दिनों से बहुत मेहनत की है, अथक परिश्रम किया है और इसका यह परिणाम रहा है कि यह कार्यक्रम बहुत ही सफलता के साथ संचालित हो रहा है और इसमें बहुत ही अच्छी ट्रेनिंग शेड्यूल बनाकर सभी हमारे जितने प्रतिभागी हैं ये सेशन आयोजित भी किए गए हैं। मैं नेशनल मिशन की टीम का भी बहुत बहुत स्वागत कर रहा हूँ। स्टेट मिशन की टीम यहाँ पर उपस्थित है, इन्होंने भी काफी मेहनत की है, आपका भी बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। साथ में हमारे पार्टिसिपेंट्स पूरे इंडिया से आए हैं, जो कि हमारे अलग अलग स्टेट्स के, जिसमें कि मिशन मैनेजर्स हैं और साथ में स्टेट मिशन मैनेजर्स हैं, हमारे डीएमएम्स हैं, डीएमएम्स भी कुछ आए हैं। आप लोगों का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है और मैं यही चाहूंगा कि यह कार्यक्रम बहुत ही सफलता से आगे भी विद्यमान रहे और अपनी सफलता की नई ऊंचाइयां हासिल करें। धन्यवाद, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद।
धन्यवाद सर। सेक्रेटरी सर, इसलिए सर मैं सबको यहाँ बताना चाहूंगा कि पिछले 4 दिनों में वित्तीय समावेशन फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन के विभिन्न आयामों पर, चाहे वो एसएचजी बैंकिंग केस के बारे में हो, एसएचजी मेंबर का जुड़ाव पीएमएसबीवाई, पीएमजेजेबीवाई, आयुष्मान भारत से हो, 2 स्टेट बैंकिंग ईसी के माध्यम से पहुंचाने के द्वारा हो, फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी द्वारा अवेयरनेस क्रिएट करने के बारे हो या लाइवलीहुड फोकस करने के लिए उसकी फाइनेंस करने की व्यवस्था हो। So we had different technical sessions, open house discussions, participants के बहुत valuable feedbacks और suggestion हैं और पिछले 4 दिनों में collectively we have been able to arrive certain key challenges that is hampering our growth, and positive thing is that we will also able to arrive certain possible solutions that will help us to achieve the goal. So इसी कड़ी को आगे बढ़ाते हुए I request and invite our Joint Secretary Madam Neeta Kejriwal to share the journey of financial inclusion under day and but also highlight the key challenges that have been pointed out in the last quarter.
Good morning everyone. Shri Naginath Sinha, Secretary Rural Development, जो आज हमारे साथ वर्चुअली जुड़े हैं, श्री मनोज कुमार सिंह, एबीसी एंड एसीएसआरटी यूपीएसआरएलएम, Shri Bhanu Goswami, SMD UPSRLM, Shri Radhavendra Katsura, Director. First of all, before I go into my presentation, एक बार फिर मैं धन्यवाद देना चाहूँगी पूरे UPSRLM टीम को, जो बहुत एबी सपोर्टेड थे उनके SMD और ACSRT। So thank you very much for organizing this conclave. So what I am going to present today before you, and जो लोग यहाँ पिछले 4 दिन से हैं, मैंने पहले दिन भी एक प्रेजेंटेशन की थी जिसमें काफी कुछ आपके साथ शेयर किया था और शायद इसमें से बहुत सारी चीजें आपके लिए रेपिटेशन भी होंगी, लेकिन क्योंकि आज स्टेट्स के बहुत सीनियर ऑफिसर्स हमारे साथ हैं, तो एक जो हमारा अचीवमेंट्स रहा है अभी तक फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन के अंदर और जो हमारा विजन है आगे जाने का, किन चीजों पर हमें फोकस देना है, कौन सी नई इंटरवेंशन हमें करनी है, उसके बारे में मैं एक छोटा सा प्रेजेंटेशन करूँगी। सो आप सब जानते हैं कि फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन इनिशिएटिव जो है उसके जो मेन कॉम्पोनेंट्स हैं एनआरएलएम के अंदर, these are the 5 main components: एसएचजी बैंक लिंकेज, फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी, digital finance, insurance and pension, and financing enterprises. This is the new area in which we are trying to venture out. So what have we achieved? जो हमारी achievements अभी तक रही हैं, जो काफी अच्छी रही हैं, अगर हम 11-12 में जब से एनआरएलएम लॉन्च हुआ है उस समय से देखें तो फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन के अंदर हमने बहुत अचीव किया है और कभी-कभी हमें recognize करनी यहाँ तक पहुँच गए हैं, we need to pack our own bags also at times. So 4 times increase in SAG's annually credit rate. 13-14 से हमारे पास डेटा है, करीब 23,000 से अब हम 43-46 लाख तक कर रहे हैं, तो that's the kind of increase. 5 times increase in annual credit disbursement. Last year हमने 1 लाख से ऊपर 1,10,000 करीब credit disbursements किया है. Cumulatively 5 lakh crore of credit target has been leveraged by women SAGs. ये 13-14 से figures हैं, and this is by any standards a very big portfolio. और remarkable ये बात है कि हमारा जो NPA है बहुत हो रहा है. जब हमने शुरू किया था कुछ maybe 9% के अराउंड NPA से, और घटते घटते अभी लाइफ टाइम लो पर है 2.1%, and we aim to take it even further down. So that is the kind of repayments that our women SAGs are able to do. We have over 34,000 bank SAGs positioned in more than 47,000 bank branches. आप जानते हैं कि बैंक SAGs ने भी बहुत important role play किया है financial inclusion में. Over 45,000 rural branch managers are being sensitized annually because they are a very important partner for us. बैंक्स के टॉप लेवल से हमें बहुत सपोर्ट मिल जाता है, लेकिन जो ऑपरेटिव लेवल है वो बैंक ब्रांच मैनेजर्स का है, और उसको सेंसिटाइज करना बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. सो ऑल द स्टेट्स हैव बीन वर्किंग ऑन दिस. In the financial literacy, we have created the largest financial literacy architecture in the country. No other organization has the kind of architecture we have of master trainers of FLCRPs and the kind of trainings that we are doing. So we have more than 50 master trainers and more than 31,500 financial literacy CRPs. And over 1 crore SAG members are annually being trained in financial literacy all across the states. In insurance also, we are aiming at universal coverage of all SAG members in life insurance, accident insurance and health insurance. पिछले साल क्योंकि हमारे माननीय मंत्री जी का भी इस पर बहुत फोकस था, तो हमने बहुत अच्छा कवरेज किया. पहले हम 1 करोड़ के करीब करते थे, लेकिन पिछले साल हमने लाइफ इंश्योरेंस में, एक्सीडेंट इंश्योरेंस में और हेल्थ इंश्योरेंस में, जो आपके सामने फिगर्स हैं, इतना हमने कवर कर दिया. और पेंशन में भी 35 लाख मेंबर सब्सक्राइब किए हैं. ये थोड़ा डिफिकल्ट होता है समझाना और इंक्लूड करना, लेकिन फिर भी हमारे इसमें भी अचीवमेंट्स है. In terms of BC SAGs, this is again a remarkable figure. आपको पता है कि हमने शुरू किया था with the mission 1 GP1 BC SAG. इसके अंदर अभी हमने 78,000 से ज़्यादा SAG members को ट्रेन कर लिया है. उसमें से large portion have been certified by the Indian Institute of Banking and Finance. And इनमें से mostly they are deployed either with the banks or with the CSCs as digitally SAG. और 29,200 करोड़ से ज़्यादा ट्रांजैक्शंस हमारी BC SAG ने अभी तक किया है. कोविड के दौरान इनका परफॉर्मेंस भी रिमार्केबल रहा है, जहाँ बहुत डिफिकल्ट कंडीशंस में इन्होंने सर्विस डिलीवरी डोर स्टेप्स कर दी है. 26 लाख से ज़्यादा SAG मेंबर ने इकोनॉमिक एक्टिविटी शुरू की है अपने इंटरनल फंड से. दिस इज अबाउट एंटरप्राइज फाइनेंसिंग. 93,000 से ज़्यादा SAG मेंबर ने मुद्रा से जोड़ दिया है, जो कि लार्जली शिशु कैटेगरी में है. This is just to show that beyond NRLM also there are a lot of financial inclusion initiatives. The numbers are huge, and this is the ecosystem in which we are working. I'm not going to details of this. So अब जो हमारे पास ब्रॉड इश्यूज हैं जिसके ऊपर इन 4 दिनों में इस कॉन्क्लेव के अंदर भी चर्चा हुई है, और जो क्वेश्चंस हमारे सामने हैं फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन वर्टिकल के अंदर, जो एग्जिस्टिंग डेट्स हैं SAG मेंबर्स के, आर दे एबल टू मैनेज, आर दे एबल टू रीपे, आर दे मेकिंग द बेस्ट यूटिलाइजेशन ऑफ दीज डेट्स. दिस इज वन इशू दैट वी नीड टू think about. Are SAG members able to effectively plan and prioritize their needs? जो हमने tools develop किए हैं एनआरएलएम के अंदर प्लानिंग के लिए, क्या वो सही तरह से हम इम्प्लीमेंट कर पा रहे हैं? SAG members क्या प्रॉपर्ली सेंसिटाइज हैं, प्रॉपर्ली प्लान कर पा रहे हैं, और क्या करने की जरूरत है? Are SAG members able to choose and effectively use products from the range of financial services? फाइनेंशियल लिटरेसी हम कहाँ तक पहुँचा पा रहे हैं, कितना हम ऑप्शंस दे पा रहे हैं अपने मेंबर्स को प्रॉपर्ली सेलेक्ट करने के लिए कौन से प्रोडक्ट्स उनको सेलेक्ट करने चाहिए। Are SCG members able to generate and maintain enough reserve for future? अगर कोविड की तरह कुछ और हमारे सामने डिजास्टर आता है तो क्या SCG members उनको मीट कर सकेंगे? Are they able to save? There have been questions about the SCG being able to save in their quarters a large amount of money. But individually also, are we able to sensitize them to save for their future in their own individual bank accounts? Can SCG members overcome any financial uncertainty they may face in future? So, जैसे कि मैंने पहले दिन भी कहा था, हमारा जो एम है वो फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन से फाइनेंशियल स्टेबिलिटी और उससे इकोनॉमिक प्रॉस्पेरिटी तक बढ़ना है। तो हमने फाइनेंशियल इंक्लूजन में बहुत अचीव कर दिया है, बहुत सारे गैप्स हैं जिसके बारे में भी मैं बात करूंगी, लेकिन काफी अच्छे अचीवमेंट्स हमने कर लिए हैं। मैनेजिंग रिस्क एंड इन वेदरिंग फाइनेंशियल शॉक्स आल्सो टू सम एक्सटेंट वी हैव अचीव्ड, बट नाउ वी हैव टू मूव टुवर्ड्स इकोनॉमिक प्रॉस्पेरिटी। स्टेबिलिटी से प्रॉस्पेरिटी की ओर जाने के लिए हमें क्या स्टेप्स लेने हैं वो हमें अब आगे देखना है। So we look into all these different aspects. So जैसे कि मैंने कहा 5 लाख करोड़ हमने लीवरेज किया है, you can see the how we have progressed from 13-14 onwards. तो जैसे मैंने कहा 1,19,000 करोड़ का डिसबर्समेंट लास्ट ईयर हमने किया था, more than 42 lakh ऐसी चीज। Credit availability per member. So this is a major issue. Like I was saying this morning to ACs, this leads to under financing, and that is something that will lead to NPAs also. So if you can see, only in certain states we have more than 1.4 lakh per member average financing. In most of the other, particularly the central states, if you see, it's about 7,000 member kind of financing that is happening, and this is very, very inadequate if we are trying to move towards economic prosperity, where the members would need certain level of financing to be able to pick up their economic activities. If we talk in terms of demand and credit supply gap, अभी हमने 5 लाख करोड़ किया है, हमारी रिक्वायरमेंट 12 लाख करोड़ की बनती है और जो गैप है 7 लाख करोड़ का अभी भी है। And again, if you see different statewide, in the southern states you will see that the demand and supply are pretty much matching in many of the states, but in most other states, and if you look at states even like Bihar or West Bengal, who have done very well in financial inclusion over the last few years, even then the demand is so high that the gap still remains very high. So if you look at the multi-dimensional poverty index, which has been released by नीति आयोग recently, ये state-wise इसमें एक फैक्टर जो वो ये भी लेते हैं वो है फाइनेंशियल एक्सेस टू फाइनेंशियल रिसोर्सेज। सो ये नीति आयोग ने अभी रिसेंटली रिलीज किया था। Just for example, we are taking one state, Assam को हमने लिया है, and यहाँ पर आपको district-wise count ratio indicate किया गया है, और आप देखेंगे कि जहाँ पर पॉवर्टी ज्यादा है वहाँ पर जो राइट साइड में कॉलम है उसमें हमने क्यूमुलेटिव क्रेडिट डिसबर्समेंट के फिगर्स दिए हैं। यू मैच देम, यू सी दैट जहाँ भी पुअर डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स हैं वहाँ पर क्रेडिट डिसबर्समेंट भी कम हो रहा है। So the focus has to now go on this. So a lot of data-driven analytics need to be done, and decisions जो हम लेते हैं कि कहाँ हमें फोकस करना है, किस तरह के इंटरवेंशन की जरूरत है, वो डेटा बेस्ड ही होना इम्पोर्टेंट है। एसएचजी बैंक लिंकेज के कवरेज में अगर हम देखें कि कितने एसएचजीज को कवर किया गया है, तो जो एलिजिबल एसएचजीज हम मानते हैं जो 6 महीने से ज्यादा इन एग्जिस्टेंस रहे हैं, again if you see there are a large number of states जहाँ 50% से भी कम एलिजिबल एसएचजीज को अभी कवर किया गया है। So we're talking about the gap in SSG bank linkage. Even though we've done very good, there's still such a big gap, and there is so much of scope for improving. So average credit to SSG भी अगर हम देखें तो बहुत सारे states को आप देखेंगे कि जो average average credit head is close to 1 lakh, a little over 1 lakh or even less than 1 lakh. So as I said, एक SHG को अगर 1 लाख रुपए दिए जाते हैं तो per member it comes to a very small amount, and that is highly inadequate for taking up any economic activity. Particularly if it is a consumption loan, one can understand that. For economic activity, if there is suboptimal financing, it can only lead to further problems. So here again, if you see district-wise, 50,000 के अंदर जो किन districts, किन states में हो रहा है ज़्यादा, sorry, this is the bank branch. No, the bank branch is district. So district-wise कहाँ पर कितना credit mobilization हो रहा है? If you see, there are so many districts. A large amount of districts are actually having credit mobilization between 1 to 1.5 lakh. So वैसे देखें तो हमारे 23% districts red में हैं और 50% districts amber में हैं, which means about 73% of districts का less than 1.5 lakh का credit average credit mobilization. Undrawn loans in SHGs, again, if you see, we say that not more than 30% of undrawn loans should be there. So 30% के benchmark areas में अगर देखें, तो there are large number of states जहाँ पर की undrawn amounts को बहुत ही high है. In fact, the closest that comes to this 30% is West Bengal 31%, or to the state part of that. Some cases going up to 63-65%. Again, this is for the remaining states. So in some cases, you see the amount is also very high and the percentage is also very high. But in other cases, maybe like say in case of Nagaland, it's only 16%, but the amount also is very small. So that is also something we need to look at. NPA or SHG loans, while we have done very well in national level, as I said, 2.1%, but if you see statewide, there are still many states which have very high NPAs, 5.18, 6.49, 7.48, Uttar Pradesh unfortunately 13.4. So, but the concern here is that it is rising. In some states it's rising. So wherever you see the arrows, compared to last year, the NPA is actually risen. So these are things that all the CEOs need to really look at and see that this is arrested. So SHG loan branch portfolio. So this is the bank branch wise portfolio. Branches with outstanding less than 10 lakh, if you see, in states, there are large number of branches. So this is 10 lakh portfolio actually means some 5 to 10 SHGs being linked. So we need to make sure that every branch has a minimum portfolio of 1 crore. So this is again another data that will be happy for you to review. Again, the remaining states, again you see very high percentage of branches. So 37% of bank branches have SHG portfolio of less than 10 lakh and a large number would be between 10 to 1 crore. In terms of financial literacy also, as I said, we have very good architecture, a lot of work being done. But if you see in terms of districts covered, there are still a lot of districts. Almost 70% districts have been covered, but in many cases, as you see, still many states, as you see, many of the districts are that some states seem to have not really initiated the work also. In terms of blocks covered, we covered 60% blocks, but if you again see, there are many states where the work does not seem to have been started. Digital finance, here mostly we are talking about BC Sake, identification, training, certification and deployment. So here, if you see, we have been able to identify more than 1 lakh, but the final deployment is somewhere around 63,000. 77,000 plus have been also certified, trained certified by IIT. So, active BC Sakhi and digital points. Here you can see that there are many states where BC Sakhis are not actually being activated, and in many cases they have been activated, which means that they have done at least one transaction, but not the adequate number of transactions have been done. So as we have said, at least 250 to 300 transactions per month is required if the BC Sakhis have to be viable. They have to earn enough to sustain themselves. This is not really not happening. If you see the percentage of active BCs also is differing from state to state. In terms of BC Sakhi transactions, the top part, the blue part, is where the viable number of transactions are happening. So if you can see state-wise, in most of the states the viable number is small, but the light blue one is where 0% transactions are happening. So in many of the states you can see that a large number of the BC Sakhis who have been trained, certified are not at all transacting. So it means that they either stopped working or not doing sufficient work. So there is a lot of work here for finding out what are the reasons, supporting them in taking them. So as we said in our guidelines also, at least 1 year's or 2 years support is required. 6 months we even pay them something to support them. So a lot of hand-holding initially is required to make them viable, and then they can be there on their own. So in Uttar Pradesh, we see even though the viable percentage is small, you can see that there are no BC Sakhis in the 0% category. So all have initiated transactions and are working, but they need to be brought to a better place. In terms of insurance and pensions, this is the status. In terms of accident insurance, we have covered 4.46 crore, but here almost 100% of SHG members will be eligible for coverage. Still, if we have more than 8 crores members, we still have way to go in terms of coverage. Under life insurance, about 70% of our SHG members will be eligible because of the age limits also. We have covered 3.58. Again, there are uncovered members, and of course, we have to ensure the renewals of all those who were covered last year also. And PMJY and state schemes, 4.99 crore members have been covered. Here also we expect close to 100% coverage is possible. In terms of contributory pension, we have covered 34.38 lakhs. We are expecting that at least 40% of our SHG members, we should be able to bring them under the coverage of the pension also eventually. In terms of claim settlement, this is where the biggest gap is existing, and this is the most important part on which we need to work. Because unless we are able to do this, the whole exercise does not really mean anything. So what we expect is that there should be claims coming at the rate of 1.5 per thousand members covered. What we are expecting was about 53,000, more than 53,000 claims to be reported. Only 15,000 have been reported, which is 28% of what we were expecting. Similarly, in accident insurance also, we have got claims of 35% of what is to be expected. So this is an area in which we have to start working. In terms of enterprise financing, we have been able to finance some enterprises through internal funds from the institute ecosystem, their own institutions. But the average credit going is 0.3 lakhs. And we've done some analysis that with this kind of investment, there can be an income of more than 1,000 to 1,500 per month, which is not very effective. So a higher level of credit has to go for individual enterprises, and this can come largely through the banking system. Through Mudra also we have been able to finance, but if you see except for Kerala, where even the larger loans have been possible, that is the Kishore and Tarun category of loans. In most of the states, the loans are of this issue category only. And again, average credit, while it is 80,000, mostly what you're doing in terms of issue loan would be less than 50,000, so around 35,000. So I'll now hand over to my colleague Saurabh Roy. He will take you through, particularly for the benefit of the CEOs, what kind of discussions have happened during the last 4 days and what feedback we have got from the participants and the direction in which we need to move forward.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving this overview. So, it was in this context actually we planned this event, Manthan. The focus, as Madam rightly referred, now we are to make ourselves ready to graduate from financial inclusion to way towards economic prosperity. The objective of this 5-day event was to actually build a consensus, a better understanding of where we are, see what we can do, define the outcomes, set benchmarks for various interventions, develop a deeper understanding. For a large country like this, I think the knowledge really lies with people who watch the cutting edge. It's our colleagues working at the district level, the block level, who actually have the rich experience. I think that's what we wanted to hear, so that we will get ourselves enriched and accordingly frame policies, and whatever we understand, we have seen across states, that knowledge can be transferred down to the district, so that the implementation is trained. So that was the whole purpose. It was a great event, sir. Last 5 days, we had over nearly 650 participants across all states. I think, except one or two union territories, I think they could not, unfortunately, be present in this. We had representation from over 500 districts here. So this was really a great event. Last 4 days, we had technical sessions on the various interventions under financial inclusion. We looked at the data, some of them presented. We looked at what we wanted to do. Some very lively discussions that happened. There were people who wanted to say more, but it was always a positive time to come to session. But definitely it was very, very rich discussions, and based on the discussions, we could chart some of our ways forward, some strategies, some actions. We did find some time also to break the monotony. I think great talent in this audience, in this group. I could not show all the photographs, but we really in terms of the outcome of this deliberation, sir, I will take you to each interventions. NRELM, as you know, is now co-terminus with the 15th Finance Commission period. So we are setting a vision for 25 till 25-26. We are saying that 75% of our SHGs should have now plan tools. Means at any given point of time, whatever new SHGs are there, 75% of them should have loans outstanding. Average credit, we cannot have a situation where average credits are less than 1 lakh, minimum 1 lakh, and not getting stuck over there. Every year we have to get a 25% increase in the average credit for the NPS, of course, 2% national utilities, but I think less than 2% NPA. I think this is the benchmark for all the districts. I think this is the challenge in front of us. This is a vision for us, which we are giving. 80% of the loan applications we should be submitting online. Systems are ready, sir. We presented to all our colleagues our system, and not only now loan application submission, even loan sanctions can be done online. The entire thing has been presented to this group. This is what we really look forward. 70% of the SHGs and federations should be actually using now digital channels. We have to move from predominantly cash transactions to digital transactions. And more importantly, I think most of these interventions at the cutting edge are being supported by cadres, bank seconds, resource persons. We have to now start thinking on how to sustain this. Now that many of those interventions are stabilized, SAGs will have to start paying small fees for the service the cadre provides. So this is also something which we have made as a part of the mission. In terms of the strategy, this is a step-by-step strategy we follow. Every self-help group in its life cycle of 7 to 8 years should get at least 4 cycles of loans, cumulatively amounting to 15 lakhs, so that the whole vision of ensuring at least 1.5 lakh per member can be achieved. And this is something which would drive our whole intervention in the coming years. In terms of other important actions or strategies which we have discussed deliberately during these last 4 days, particularly on the session of SAG banking engaged, I think bookkeeping has come up as an important aspect, and lot of improvement in bookkeeping is required. I think very shortly there will be a transaction-based MIS also which will be rolled out. I think that would add a great way to this. More rigor in preparation of microcredit plans are required. I think many participants have actually talked about it, indicated this. Submission of loan applications, there is an online system here. Many 7-8 states have already started using this at scale. And now we have the national portal called the Jan Samad portal, developed under the anchorship of Department of Financial Services, that is going live very soon, is already ready. This Jan Samad portal enables online sanctions also. So this is where we, like both these NREL online, SAG loan application and Jan Samad portal are already integrated now. Loan applications, I think minimum 6 lakhs should be the amount for which loans are submitted, with drawing power for each doses, of course. An important thing is to ensure that the entire drawing power is taken by the SAG. We have seen in Madam's presentation over 88,000 drawing unutilized. This is a disservice. Banks extend loans, but for some reasons they are not able to use this. So we have to encourage self-help loans, assure them, guide them on their plans so that they are able to use the loans entirely sanctioned by the bank. Many times, because it's large number of self-help groups are actually sanctioned CCL, in fact 88% of the groups get cash credit loans. These are often used as a term loan taken and then only every month repayments are done. That's also one of the reasons why the undrawn limits go higher at the final of the year. Let's use a 12 credit to debit policy. Every month SAGs go on repaying, but once in 6 months, whatever they have repaid, they draw it, so that the undrawn limits will not be so high, and the self-help will also be able to take advantage of it. There is a requirement to facilitate recovery of the NPA accounts. I think that would be a great support to banks and also develop trust with the bankers. Prioritize accounts with low overdues. I think there are hundreds and thousands of accounts with probably less than 1,000 rupees overdue, and for some reasons, because of no information being available at SAG, those SAGs are classified as NPA. So I think we'll start with that. Charging support fees, as I said, sustainability of our cadres is trying to sustain this whole intervention. The mission will only do so much, but if it has to go on a longer term, I think some small support fees will have to come from the SAGs. Difficult areas, because we all know northeastern region, hilly districts, the island territories, desert regions, border districts, these are difficult areas. We have to look at difficult areas differently. There are MOUs being done at the state level with bank, and we have similar arrangements specifically focused on the difficult areas. Can we have innovative arrangements like credit risk sharing with banks for those specified difficult areas, so that there is a push for credit in those areas? Otherwise, in the regular routine manner, the credit flow may not increase. I think some of those data, I think Madam just showed in her presentation. There is a uniform interest subvention now brought in. Colleagues have been briefed for information of the mission directors and the senior officers from the state. Now, across the board, there will be no category 1, category 2 districts. One single provision up to 3 lakhs, SAGs will get 7%. and from 3 to 5 lakhs, SHGs would get loans at 1 year MCLR of the respective banks, and this entire interest subvention would actually be given from the central component of NRELM, so there is no state share. Almost 24,000 crore allocated for this. 24,000 crore can actually capitalize another 5 lakh crores till 25-26 if we are able to plan this very meticulously. There is also an OD limit for every verified women SHG member having a general account sanction. The system is ready. We have explained to all the colleagues from the states and the districts how this is to be implemented. This needs a priority. What this will do is, will actually address the emergency credit requirement of all the members. So anyone who is having a general account among our members can actually have a running credit facility of 5,000 rupees. In the financial literacy, we have seen some of the issues. I think going forward, I think this picture is what it determines that it is not about training inputs. It's about giving services. So if you look at the picture, there is a FLCRP doing the training at a village site in the name of or in the Manega work site, but doesn't stop there. Day one, she appraises the members of the different, provides inputs on the different financial services. Next day, at the same location, there is a BC who goes there, opens an account, probably enrolls the members on the insurance, or if there is a fund transfer requirement, enables that fund transfer requirement. If there is a withdrawal requirement, enables that withdrawal requirement. So, this is how this has to be connected. It's not about just doing financial literacy camp. It has to be linked to outcomes. Vision, this is what it is. Positive change in the financial behavior and typically highlighted by higher adoption of financial services in terms of transaction in the individual accounts of the SHG members, universal coverage of the insurance, members, large number of self-help group members are in the age group of 25 to 40. Another 10 years, another 15 years, many of them actually will be crossing their earning age. We will have to start now if we are to save them from old age poverty. And pension is one of the best tools to do that. So we have to, it's a difficult product, but we have to encourage members to subscribe to contributory pensions. Digital channel, we all understand that this is now the focus. We have to help members transit from predominantly cash to, if we are looking at SHG, also member will have to be onboarded on this. And of course, increase borrowing for investment in productive income generation activity or economic productive. How do we do it? I think suction centers we have discussed. I think already over 151 suction centers are running across the state, but we have to quickly increase the numbers of suction centers, and these are maintained by the matured CLS. What they do, they are supposed to prepare a village level financial inclusion plan, sitting with all the SHGs in that village. Continue the financial literacy inputs, and also, and this is most important, continue or ensure delivery of financial services, the required financial services at the doorstep, so that that adoption of various services happens. The different cadres who are involved, be it the BC Saki, be it the bank Saki, be it the Bima Saki, whatever cadre architecture we have put in place in the neighborhood, they all need to be linked with this center so that this becomes a one-stop service delivery point for the entire village or in the geography it has come up. And this happens under the guidance of the federation in that area. The strategies, we are already doing it. The FLCRPs, we have to continue with their training programs. They need to be equipped with the resource kits already made available. One important aspect is to actually tie up with the bank managed FLCs. We cannot run this program in isolation. This program has to converge with the bank managed FLCs. Joint planning of the village level camps needs to happen. The FLCRP reviews which are happening, the SRM colleagues are currently doing, but this has to be done jointly by the FLC coordinator and the SRM. And over a period of time, this cadre of FLCs actually feel themselves as a part of the FLCs managed by the banks also. Suction center I already told. Another important point I would like to bring to notice of the mission directors and the senior officers from state. Financial literacy, we do not know a revenue model. It's more of an investment model. So, yes, NRLM is investing, but the grant support from NRLM will not be sufficient to continue the financial literacy efforts. So, additional resources will have to be mobilized. There are sources, there are funds with RBI, there are funds with NABARD, there will be private funds from other donors available. We need to explore. Nationally also we are making attempts that will come to you one-on-one to understand what is the requirement and what are proposals for this, but this is one important aspect which would require your attention and guidance. In terms of the digital finance, whatever we discussed during the technical session here, I think three key components would form a part of the whole digital finance intervention. Currently, the focus is primarily on the BC Sakhi model, but going forward, we also have to shift gears and get into the digital transition in the SHG ecosystem. We have to help SHGs transit from a predominantly cash to a more digital transactions. And not only the SHG ecosystem, also going forward now, large number of enterprises are coming. Credit worthiness assessment becomes much easier if we are actually onboarding the entrepreneurs on the digital platform. If not entirely, a good part of it. So, digital transition and digital transition for enterprises also would be a focus for this. What is the vision? Again, the core thing first, the BC Sakhi covering one BC Sakhi, one GP, but yes, I understand there will be GPs where because of low population density, the BC may not be viable. In those cases, 2 to 3 GPs one BC may cover. The idea is to cover most of the geographies so that they get banking services at the doorstep or in the neighborhood. So that's the vision. All the BCs to be IRDA certified as per the requirements. BC Sakis who are onboarded through non-bank partners, I think primarily it has been the DGPay through CSC, but there are other non-bank partners also. But one thing we have to keep in mind that all BCs onboarded through non-bank partners, we have to eventually shift to a full-fledged BC under a bank. So that has to be done in time-bound manner. Madam, I think already referred, BCs 100 transactions doesn't help, it will not sustain. Minimum 400 transactions because just to let you know that the commission rates from banks are also coming down. So earlier even Madam mentioned 250, probably 250 also not enough in many of the banks. So probably 300, 400, 500 transactions would be required to make them viable. Idea is to ensure that they get a net earnings of 5 to 8,000 rupees minimum. We had 2 wonderful DDs coming over here, one DD a full-fledged BC, another DD running the DGPay intervention. Both of them explain their stories, and the earnings are fabulous. But the transactions they do are much more than this. So, minimum 400 transactions is what we aim to achieve for all these. BCs currently are only giving the withdrawal and deposit services, mostly in some cases enrollment in insurance. There are nearly 30 services which can be given through the BC channel. Awareness about this will have to be spread. Even the BCs don't know sometimes. So this will have to be, because this will make those services available in the rural areas. The second part is that this will also increase the income of the BCs. All model CLF, all SHGs in the model CLF will have to get on board on the dual authentication platform transactions. And 50% of the members should, over a period of time, get on board and start using the digital channels. Some strategies, known things, we are already doing the training, but I think we cannot take more time to complete the training. So let's agree by December, 100% of the members who are identified potential members will be deployed as BCs. The trainings are over. The training architecture is there already in place through the RCTs. Well, I understand there is a lag between getting the locations where the BCs will be deployed I think UB has done a fantastic work in this regard, making partnerships with banks so that that difficulty doesn't arise. But this can be emulated in other states also. But there is also an already ongoing arrangement through CSC. All the businesses can register as DGK so that they immediately start the basic transactions, but over a period of time transit to a full-fledged BC. Vision building of the BC is very important. We saw so many BCs having no transactions or less than 100 transactions. Making them understand the entire business is very, very important. That a BC can earn 15,000, 20,000, 30,000 rupees through this work, this vision building, this idea of that business will have to be imparted to all the BCs. The way the BDs who represented here in our technical session talk, if we are actually making this BDs talk to the other BC circles who have no transaction, I think this vision can be imparted to all. So this is something which we need to do. One important aspect which came is the settlement account limits. Large number of BCs actually have about 10,000 rupees of opening limit. This will permit 3 transactions, 4 transactions per day. They cannot cross 100 transactions a month. So this needs to be immediately taken up. I think one of the BC circles who came here, she told that the opening limit she is having is 1.5 lakh. She wants to take it up to 2 lakhs. So that is the kind of limit required if they are part 25,000 rupees as a part of this. Transaction data, you have seen the data presented, but many of those data actually are not coming from states, and whatever states have informed that these are the number of BCs which has been deployed on the field, the transaction data for all those BCs are not coming. It is very, very important unless we have the right data from the bank. This has to be sourced not from the BC but from the corporate BC of the bank. So this has to come. Only with precise data we will be able to judge if our intervention is going in the right direction or not. So, senior officers, please look into it that if X number of BC circuits has been deployed, all the BCs, the transaction data is available. And for that, if there is some arrangement we want to make with banks or corporate partners at the local level, this should be done. I also would like to also emphasize that the SHG transaction, currently the SHG goes for loan repayment to the bank or loan repayment to the CI. This is possible through the BC channel. This itself will help SHG members save money and time going to the bank, and at the same time will increase the transaction at the BC part. So please encourage this. If there is a policy required, a guidance required down to the district level, if you can issue this should be an enabling circular to this. Another important point is that Odisha SRM has entered into a corporate BC arrangement with 2 banks, one RRB and one State Bank of India. SRMs can consider these options. This can be a viable proposition. Please evaluate this accurately. Dual authentication in the SHGs, this is something which has to be done. Good CNS internet banking facility can be activated. That will help a lot of digitalization of the accounts also at the federation level. At the member level, at least one digital channel is the level to government. Cards, UPI, mobile wallet, whatever is the channel, I think if this is encouraged, this probably already be happening, but wherever it is not happening, if it will be nudge, I think this can easily be done. On the insurance front, again, the focus is on universalization, focus is on actually enrolling on pensions, but most importantly, I think if you see the data, only a part of the claims are coming. I think it's not only enrollment, but ensuring that the claims are there. Institutionalizing a claim settlement architecture is of prime importance. We will continue the awareness campaign, we will continue the universalization coverage, but I think more importantly, every time if you put the kind of efforts required to enroll members, I think this is not paying off. Somewhere we have to look for ways and means how we automate this entire process. If we are to give a standard instruction to bank and bank debits the account of the members and get this whole process automated, and lot of our efforts get saved. So let's think about it. this is a way as to do things efficiently. And through the CLF, I think the claim management architecture will have to be put in place. On the financing of enterprises, having 25 million new livelihoods, each member generating about a lakh income. This is the focus. Our honorable minister has always been saying about this. This is probably the way to go also if the numbers are right. Two strategies, internal funds. Today, currently, as we speak, in the asset ecosystem, more than 2 lakh crores are already available. Another 36,000 crores as CIF could move in the coming 3-4 years. We are looking at about 4 to 5 lakh crores of additional bank loans in the coming 3-4 years. So a lot of money will get pumped into the SAG. So one member, minimum one member RSAG will have to be financed through this. And financing, when I am saying, not very small or adequate financing for the economic enterprises. And among them, the bigger ones, we are saying at least 10% of them to be linked under this. I think this is the two strategies we adopt. This, the numbers will be different in different ways. More the numbers, I think the better. But for this, I think most importantly, creating this architecture. I think there has to be inter-thematic convergence. I think if there is a small group under the leadership of the mission where the financial person, the livelihoods person come together, they guide this whole information. Because one thematic cannot take this forward. So I think this is something which has to be done. During the experience sharing, some of the states have already put this structure in place. I request other states also to put it. This is very, very important. And at the cutting edge, I think we have to look at a cadre like Vidya. It's just a name. It's not a new person from the existing cadres only. This role can be given where they actually support the enterprises at the cutting edge level. In some cases, the CRPs are also there. How do we do it? Two approaches again. Increase the number of women in business, basically encouraging women to start up, and whatever small businesses are there, helping them graduate to bigger enterprises. This is the low-hanging fruit. I think 25 million, if you look at we have 80 million plus members, it probably would not be a harder task to find. This probably is the first step towards reaching. And definitely once we start facilitating this, I think there will be a very big demonstration effect for promotion of enterprises. Few steps, I am not going to read this, we have presented this in details. I think the focus is on identification of the right candidate who is willing or who is willing to start those enterprises or expand those enterprises. Current challenge is not having that information in one place. Nobody knows how many such members exist in a particular district. What is the credit demand? For what kind of enterprises they are asking this money? This information not being there, we are not even able to make the first move. And that's where the bottleneck lies. If we are able to break this bottleneck, I think the other steps will follow smoothly. In terms of the potential source, this is not cast in stone, will evolve with experience, but broadly we are saying if it is a startup, let's start with the internal funds, because new enterprises are likely to fail, but if they fail, with bank loans, there will be an NPA and probably will be out of the banking system. But if you start with the community funds, even if they fail, the community institutions can come actually to rescue her, to help her with additional capital infusion to recover those enterprises. Up to 75,000 for the new enterprises, or for the existing enterprises up to 75,000, there can be combination of Shishu loans and internal funds. We have seen this data. Large number of Shishu loans are coming, but if we are able to combine the Shishu loans and community funds, I think we can make a considerable investment in the existing enterprises. But for bigger enterprises, direct linkage with the bank is more desirable. Lastly, I think data-driven implementation, I have talked about it. We cannot, precise data is required to do the correct decision making and timely. Under financial inclusion, these are the various portals and apps which has been developed, especially bank linkage. You know, these have been running for years now. There is an insurance portal which is already in place. For the OD limit, there is also a portal for this. We have 2 apps, financial literacy, we have Saksham for the enterprise financing, we have Udemy. We also have this BCCT transaction data compiled there. So if all of these data-driven implementation is done, we will be able to precisely guide this implementation. I will stop here. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am and Saurabh, for this insightful presentation. And I think the last session we had presentation by ma'am and Saurabh probably justify the name Manthan. And we all know during Manthan, Deva and Ashura are both Wish and Amrit. So we also had the Wish in the form of various challenges that is identified by the participants, and also Amrit in the form of the various strategy and solutions that are proposed by the group in which was the Saurabh has. So thank you, ma'am, once again. Now moving forward, we once again like to thank UPSRM government of Uttar Pradesh for coming for us and co-hosting this mega event. Thank you once again. And I would like to apprise participants that under the leadership of Manoj Kumar Singh sir, the mission has made appreciable progress on various fronts, especially digital finance. So humbly I request and invite respected Manoj Kumar Singh sir